Caller whose number ends in 1092.
Yeah. Hello?
Hello, yep. Can I have your name, please?
This is Famata Perry. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, good. I got you. Thank you. Caller whose number ends in 0392. Can I have your name, please?
This is Jason Berry.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good evening and welcome to Kent County Board of Adjustment for January 21st, 2021. We are calling the public hearing to order. Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Ms. Hudson,
Here.
Mr. Saunders,
Here.
Mr. Jenkins,
Here.
Mr. Kusick,
Here.
Mr. Crossan,
Here.
Mr. Carter,
Here.
and Ms. Stenny.
Here.
Vote shows 7 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you introduce the staff, please?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Blair, and I'm one of the planners here at Kent County Planning Services, and I will be the hearing officer for tonight's public hearing. Also with me is Mr. Fred Townsend across the room, who will serve as the board's legal counsel this evening.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask that everyone rise and pledge allegiance to our flag.
Allegiance to the flag. United States.
Any additions or changes in the agenda?
There are none, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Will you then introduce the public hearing?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Blair, and I'll preside as the hearing officer for tonight's public hearing. This hearing is being conducted for the purpose of providing the citizens of the county an opportunity to present testimony on this application before the Kent County Board of Adjustment. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. This will provide those who wish an opportunity to give their testimony. There is an official recording of these proceedings being made. Therefore, we ask that only one person speak at a time and that they speak clearly. Furthermore, there shall be no cross-examination of witnesses permitted during the public hearing, but the board can ask the applicant questions after any opposition if necessary. As a courtesy to other participants in the hearing, a maximum of 5 minutes will be allotted to any person who wishes to provide testimony. The chairperson of the board has the discretion to allow additional time if deemed necessary. To make a statement when your application is called, please use either the podium up front, or if you are participating online and wish to give testimony, we will unmute your phone so you can speak. For the record, please give your name, address, and allow our attorney to swear you in prior to providing testimony. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification so that they may be included in the permanent record. The procedure on each variance application will be as follows. The legal notice will be read on each case prior to the receipt of testimony. There will be a brief explanation of the application by staff. The board will then receive testimony from all those in favor of the application, followed by testimony of those who may be opposed. Once those persons in favor and those in opposition have had the opportunity to speak, the hearing on that application will be declared closed. Decisions on all applications heard this evening will be made by the board during the business meeting following the public hearing. However, you are not required to remain after the public hearing once your request has been heard and closed. During the business meeting, the board will consider all information of record. A common vote of 4 members of the board shall be required to make a decision on each application. If you do not wish to wait for the business meeting later this evening, you may call Kent County Planning Services tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. at 744-2471 or check Kent County's Planning Department website to learn of the board's ruling. All applicants will receive written notification of the board's decision. However, this notice may not be mailed until after the next scheduled meeting, but if approved, you are welcome to apply for any necessary permits prior to receiving this by mail. Please keep this decision in your records for both you and all future property owners. The public notice of this evening's hearing was published in the January 4th Delaware State News. In addition, all of the subject properties were posted with a sign prior to the hearing to further notify the public of the nature of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll have a statement by counsel, the purpose of which is to help anyone who's giving testimony this evening to better understand what is acceptable as testimony before this particular board. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Ms. Denny. Can I ask, though, staff, if we have an applicant for tonight's meeting?
We do, Mr. Townsend, and they have yet to show, and I do not believe they've called in yet, so.
In which case, do we need to do that? to have a statement? I mean, is there anybody online waiting?
We have, it's Fomata Perry, it's online, that's waiting.
Yeah, she's old business for later, but Ryan Briggs is supposed to at least represent the pending application for tonight's hearing. And I do know that he was informed, and I believe he told Mr. Barry that he was going to participate online. So I'm not surprised not to see him in the building, but he certainly should be calling in.
I wonder if he's just having difficulty getting on. I mean, do we have a phone number or something? Yeah, I feel like we should give him a few minutes, but,
I would suggest that we move on to old business and then see if he makes his way into our meeting in time, and then we can convene the public hearing.
okay, so you're going to have to walk me through this because old business come the business meeting.
Well,
Okay.
to the
But
next item, which is business meeting.
Do you agree that it's appropriate if it's just us to waive your statement? Not that it's that long, but.
There doesn't seem to be much point into, for me to read a statement into the record if we're not going to hold a hearing. Now, if we go back if we convene the public hearing because Mr. Briggs shows up, I'd be happy to read my statement for him at that point.
Okay. Yeah, can we close this meeting and go to open the business meeting and then come back, or can we, I don't know, do we have a phone number for the applicant?
There's Jamie's searching for it now.
Okay,
Let me see if I can find it on his application. Windows Explorer, yeah, that might be able to pull the permit. See if she's. You can go in and do whatever you need to do here. Okay, thank you. Let's see if we have this.
Scott, this is Jason. Jamie told me that she found the number and she's going to give the applicant a call.
thank you.
Great, thank you, Jason.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're calling your house as you speak.
Where would you like us?
Anywhere that you would like to sit, and I'm sorry that they didn't leave any other.
Oh, that's okay.
So just gather yourself a minute, and then we're going to get some testimony. But in the meantime, we're going to have a statement by our attorney, who is just going to give you some information as to what is and is not acceptable as testimony before this body. Okay, so Mr. Townsend, when you're ready.
The test for the granting of area variances is set forth by the Delaware Supreme Court in the case known as Board of Adjustment versus Quick Check Realty. The standard applied is whether a strict application of zoning regulations results in exceptional practical difficulties of ownership. To determine whether the exceptional practical difficulty test is met, the board must weigh or consider the following 4 factors. First, the nature of the zone where the property lies. Second, the character and uses of the immediate vicinity. Third, whether removal of the restriction on the applicant's property would seriously affect neighboring properties, and fourth, whether failure to remove the restriction would create unnecessary hardship or exceptional practical difficulty for the owner in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements to the property. This factor is satisfied only when the difficulties alleged by the owner are practical rather than theoretical and exceptional rather than routine. Note that the inability to improve one's business or stay competitive as a result of area limitations may qualify as a legitimate exceptional practical difficulty. And it's here when the board considers whether the applicant is seeking more than is minimally necessary to relieve the asserted difficulty. In general, the board is not permitted to consider factors other than the four I listed, so those speaking both in support of and in opposition to applications are urged to present only information bearing directly on the four factors, which restated briefly concern: 1, the zoning district; 2, the character of the immediate vicinity; 3, the effect on neighboring properties; and 4, whether the applicant faces exceptional practical difficulties of ownership. In particular, presenters are instructed to exclude any discussion of personal disputes or acrimony between the applicant and neighboring property owners, as the board is unable and unauthorized to resolve those disputes. Presenters must limit their remarks to those issues the board can decide. Ms. Denny, that concludes my statement.
Thank you. So will you introduce I'm sorry. We're going to begin the public hearing.
Great, thank you, Ms. Denny. Our first and only application for the evening is A21-01, Ryan K. Briggs. Do we have someone here to represent this application tonight? If you just raise your hand and we'll get your testimony later. Great, thank you. So this is A21-01, Ryan K. Briggs. He seeks a variance from the requirement that an accessory structure shall not be located in the front yard unless that structure is at least 100 feet from the front property line. And this is being sought to legalize an existing shed. This property is located on the south side of Central Church Road, about 0.41 miles east of Pearson's Corner Road, west of the city of Dover, Levy Court District 2, and it is zoned AR. Exhibit B shows the location of the current shed. Again, this is requesting a variance for a shed that has already been placed. As you will see from the exhibit, the 14 by 20 shed is approximately 17 feet from the property line when 100 feet is required. This is a photograph of the shed from the road. This is a look down the road towards I believe that's more like a southern direction. This is a view from of the road in the other direction. This is another photograph of the shed. Another photograph of the shed. This is a photograph of the shed, and you can see a single-family dwelling in the rear, manufactured home. And another view of the shed. This is the aerial photograph. The shed has not been placed in this. This is an older aerial photograph, but you can kind of approximate its location there. In that area right there. And this is a higher up aerial photograph of the property. Okay. So now we'll begin the testimony. If we could have our applicants come up, and our attorney will swear you in so you can give testimony, please.
Just one at a time, please. And whoever wants to go first. And essentially, you're just going to tell us what you're trying to do after you're sworn.
Okay.
So you're Mr. Briggs, is that
Yes,
right? Okay.
correct,
So
Ryan Briggs.
If you would pull the microphone up a little bit Okay,
correct.
now, if you would introduce yourself and give us your address.
My name is Ryan K. Briggs. My address is 418 Central Church Road, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Thank you. Mr. Briggs, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
Yes, I'm putting a variance in for my shed for the sole purpose. My mother placed the shed before she passed, and she did not know the zoning laws or the codes to do such a thing. Plus, I have proof that the land surrounding my area is very wet, very soggy, and the placement of the shed was strategically thought of for that reason. It could not go in the front yard, or it could not go on top of the mound, and the backyards were definitely out of the question. We did know of the 100-year flood as far as the tax ditch that is on the other side of the property, and we decided not to put it there because of different zonings and knowing of that. I would like to keep it there because it was a lot to do, and I don't see where it's going to interfere with any neighbors or the application of the road as far as seeing up and down the road, or be of a hindrance as around that curve, per se. I would definitely do what is needed as far as the council is concerned, but I would like to definitely keep it on the property where it is, if all possible. And if not, I would definitely like the recommendation of the council to where I could place it or keep it, because it was a gift to me. So I would like to not get rid of it. I would like to keep it on the property somewhere. Do you have some things you would like to say?
We'll get to her. Now we're going to ask you
I'm
some
sorry.
questions. That's okay. So, gentlemen, anybody have a question or comment?
Hey, is that two sheds together? Because, I mean, when I drove by, it looked like you got the first shed. Is that a second shed behind it?
That is a second addition, yes, that was being built at the time on it, and never completely got finished. Yeah, because of the variance, I never completely finished it. I stopped working on it because of the variance, because, like I said, we didn't know we could do that.
Yes, did you say there was a mound, like a mound septic?
Yeah, a mound septic in the straight middle of the yard, right behind that, and there couldn't be a we go back. It's an older mound system, right there, basically right in the middle of the yard. Yes, right up in there.
Where the grass is
Yeah,
greener.
there's a big square. Yes, exactly where the grass is. Yes, yeah, field drain mound septic system.
And you also mentioned that there was a lot of water on the land. Are you saying there are sections of this parcel that are wetlands?
Yes, I believe so. The thermal geo is very. There's only the middle of the yard there, the front of the yard, and maybe a little bit on the side of the house. Yes, there, and then in the front on the no, not over there. That's all wet too. Right in the front of the double wide, the bigger home. Yes, those are the only, and that's the front yard of the double wide. And like I said, the mound system is right in the middle of it.
Okay, so as a matter of housekeeping, you may or may not know, but the planners recommended that we deny this application. And so I just want that to be in the record.
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand like the sequence here. Your mom had, prior to her death, had the shed placed.
Yes.
Do you know if she had a permit when she did that?
I am not sure. We did not find anything in her records because it was done shortly before she passed away.
Okay. I was just trying to catch up on the records here as you were being questioned by the other members. So can't be put over the mound and moving it sideways, like over in front, moving it to the side certainly doesn't make it behind the house or, to legalize it.
Yeah, it's too wet behind both houses to be placed back there. I could put them maybe on the other side of the trees right there to make it 100 foot off the road.
No, because that, yeah.
No.
So essentially, he's
just on
not
the other
putting it
side of the
behind the
trees
house.
of that.
He's-
Where that truck is or that vehicle is?
Yeah, well, that vehicle would be, yes, but just on the other side of that. No,
No, same location where it is, just
just
a
on the
little
other
bit.
side of the trees,
So
yes.
I'm looking for a place, I'm looking to see if there's an area that would be 100 feet from the front property line. And that would, and when I looked at this, I couldn't see that. I tried to figure it out, but I couldn't. So that's my question to you.
Can she come up and speak for, please?
She's going to get her turn when
Okay.
So does anybody have
It's just
any
we
other
collaborated
questions?
together on this
Sure,
meeting,
sure.
and I apologize for that.
Mr. Briggs, what do you use the shed for?
Just storage right now.
In the staff, they mentioned that at one point it was a neighbor or someone complained about a business that was being operated out of it.
Yes, I dissolved the business out of that.
And
It
you
was
mentioned
never really started, actually.
Okay. And that was two separate lots, correct?
Yes, that's two separate lots, yes.
And you mentioned that your mom, when they put, or whoever put the building there, didn't know about the,
She was in her 70s,
Okay.
and she didn't think we needed a permit to put it there.
gotcha. But the reason I ask is because it says here that the board had previously approved a variance to reduce the size of the lot so you could have that separate trailer or manufactured home there, to legalize a second manufactured home that was illegally placed on the property. I'm just wondering if that, when that took place, when that was subdivided, or when it was, the board granted the other variance for that to happen, she was alive at that time?
I'm not sure. Yes, I would think so, sir. Yes.
Okay, so
That was a long time ago, I would assume. Because there's been two addresses out on that property for as long as at least 30, 40 years.
That was actually that application to make two lots
Yeah,
was in 1995.
in 95, so
So-
20, yeah, 20.
So,
It was a while
it was to
ago.
legalize it, so it
Right.
very well may be that it existed for some time before somebody said something or
I
they
believe,
came.
yeah, there was always been, I lived on the property all my life, and there was always another address on there.
So when did you,
I
become the
inherited the
owner.
land last year.
okay, so you weren't
And-
involved at all with any of it?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
And you are saying that where the car that is,
Yes.
not the one that's closest to the home, but the one
No.
that's a little closer to the road, that is dry area there?
Yes, that is dry area as far as to where it does not flood. If we have 2 inches of rain, my property floods 4 inches.
So I
Because
think,
we drain, I have a tax ditch that has been maintained by us for 40 years that drains that whole, there's 5-6 houses that it comes from that drains into one.
we usually try to come up with a compromise here, and I think that,
Right.
I don't think that any of us expect, because of the ditches and the wetlands, that you're going to be able to put it 100 foot off the road. And
Right.
maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be, but it
Right.
certainly, that would certainly bring it back quite a bit where that, looks like you still have plenty of places to park another car or two up closer to the home.
Yeah, just right on the other side of the trees would put the corner of it, definitely 100 foot off the road.
So you could have it moved, I mean, they have the,
Yes,
lift and have it
essentially
moved.
I could have it moved, yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
I would prefer not to, but if we have to, then, yes, financially is what is the problem right now. Because I'm taking care of my ex-wife too, who has terminal breast cancer, and is starting to. I'm taking care of her and my sons too at the same time. But I would thank you if we could keep it on the property and move it to minimal as possible. Would be a very great thing, and I would appreciate that.
So I have one more question, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
unless I pique somebody else's interest, then we're going to let you go. But what is in the shed? What do you keep in the shed?
Keep my tools, my lawnmowers, her motorcycle, my boat, all that. There's a lot of stuff I keep in there because I have no other place to keep storage right now, and I don't like to have a storage. That's one of the main reasons my mother gifted the shed to me, and because I was starting to gather things that she didn't like in her yard.
Okay, so that said, there's no business
No.
operating from the shed. The shed is
The shed is a shed.
what normally people put in a
Yes.
shed.
The
Okay.
the shed is a shed. I do work on things of my own, but that's it.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the application? Yes, ma'am, please come up and let our attorney swear you in.
Name and address, please.
Sharon Hunton, 124 Lincoln Street, Smyrna, Delaware, 19977.
Okay. Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
I wanted to address the council about other properties that are on the same road that are extremely close that have, and I have pictures here, of other sheds that are similar that are as close as 18 and 20 feet off the road.
Ma'am, would you be willing to submit those as evidence, or do you need those back?
No, I can submit them.
Okay, if you could, let me come get those and we can pass them around to the board members.
We have that. Sorry. I wanted to ask a question. Now, the recommendation I'm sorry, I'm short. Here we go. Recommendation for denial is based solely on the fact that it may or may not be a safety reason and to uphold the integrity of the code, correct? Those are the only two reasons why?
Well, the main thing, they are two reasons, but the main thing is that it violates our code. And so when there's a violation of the code and it's pointed out to us,
Right.
then we ask the property owner to either fix it or apply for a variance to legalize it, even if it's pre-existing.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times, these things come into play when somebody sells a house. So like if you want to sell, and then, the attorneys get together to come to some kind of settlement, and they say, oh, wait a minute, this shed is not legal.
Right.
So,
I wanted to clear up the question, because when we went to apply for the permit or variance, they had brought up a Facebook page that we were just starting a business, and it was more of an art expression business where we would paint, we would turn like a, what did we do? None of the pictures that were shown were actually done at that shop. They were actually done at my shop. So that being said, we more of a refurbished thing where we took an old gas stove and turned it into a grill, and we refurbished and manufactured things like that. It was actually pretty cool. My main thing that I wanted to say was the ditches on both sides of the property, one going all the way on the western side of the property towards Pierce's Corner. If you're looking at the picture, it's on the right of the big house. There's a massive ditch, yeah, right there, but in between the two properties. Nope, a little bit further.
On
Just
that
over
side
the
of
line. It's approximately about, well, no, that's still in his property. It's like,
it's inside the yellow line?
yes.
Okay.
Do you have a geothermal image? I submitted one. It shows the tax ditches and how big they are. The reason why these ditches are one of the major reasons why we can't put it anywhere else is because they not only are over flooded and they back up quickly because they drain the surrounding properties. Meaning it's kind of like his property is a soup bowl and all of it goes in like that, creating very, very, very wet lands. And I learned the hard way. I got my Jeep stuck. Those are the two major reasons. Now, I did see that you had pictures about the one saying it was a safety concern. I see that you already have those pictures. So there's at least 12 feet clearance on either side. When you look both ways, there is no safety hazard or issue when exiting the property. I was informed by his mom 2 days after she placed the shed there, and I'd asked her why she put it in a grove of trees, and she said the last time she tried to put a shed on the property, it sank, which is still there, by the way. It's the one right behind the house. It's not usable because the land is so, that right there, it's like a half of the thing. You can see how it's leaning in. It won't support a structure. And that's 15 feet from the ditch. On the other side, going into the driveway on this side, it's the same thing. It becomes kind of like a pond. And on the other side, there's no pictures of that one. I did submit a picture of that one. Well, we weren't. Okay. I don't know if I have a picture of that.
Just, the board members were provided pictures that were submitted by the applicants in your packet.
Oh, okay.
So I believe there were 20 of them, they do have.
Oh,
If you would, so they
yeah.
have seen.
Okay. On the other side, I don't know if you can see in what you have. On the other side, it shows I took in the pictures right after it rained. No, the other side, like if you turned around and face that way. That is the... Yes, that's the one. That one is the one that gives us the most trouble because it backs up to the driveway and sometimes spills over. That's why we decided not to put it in the first place. That's why they decided not to put it on this side where the motorcycle is, because it spills over on the other side from that and it kind of floods it a little bit. But we could build it up. That wouldn't be an issue. It's just this financial cost, especially right now with COVID, he's barely working. So if you do decide to give us a variance to even move it, I would ask for a considerable leniency on time because of the finances and the fact that we have to detach what we built onto it. There it is.
Yeah, if you would like me to go through these photographs, if that's okay, Madam Chairwoman,
Fine,
and she could speak to them.
This was the first part. Now this is where it backs up to the left side of the property. On the other side, direct opposite side, on the other side of the single wide, this is 10 times worse because the ditch isn't as big. This is a 14 by 9 deep ditch. It's pretty big. But on the other side of that, a complete end of the property, there's no ditch quite that deep. So it can't drain into it doesn't have a drain from the road like the other one does. So it kind of,
we can see
That's
in
it.
these photos, we can see the drainage ditch, the
right.
pond.
And that was probably about 4 or 5 days after it rains. When it actually rains, you can imagine how bad it backs up. I think I put in the statement that the ground is so soggy we couldn't put a picnic table on it. We actually had to put a cement pad down for the picnic table to go on for it to stand. That's how wet the land is. That's where the two, that's my brother mowing the lawn. That's where the field drain systems comes. It starts in the middle and then comes all the way probably the drains come about 2 feet towards the shed. So it takes the whole center, it kind of messes up for putting anything where it's all lush and green.
Is that one septic system for both?
No, it's two. There's two separate ones. One's behind this one where the septic system for the main house is located right behind it. And then the one on this side, as you can see, is right dab in the middle and has field drains that go this way.
Sounds like you're really lucky to be able to have a septic system there if it's
It's
small.
very hard to maintain. We have freezing issues a lot. It's very, very hard to keep it up. Bonnie, his mom, a very good friend of mine, very sweet lady, she put it in here because her main concern was because they live on a corner, she was afraid that maybe a car, because a couple times the cars have skidded off the road into the property. She wanted to put it in a grove of trees so the building itself wouldn't be damaged. And yes. So that's all I have to say, and I thank
Now
you
we're
for the
going to
time.
give you some questions.
Oh, okay,
So-
no questions.
Okay, anybody?
I just have one. If you could go back to the aerial shot that showed please. The only other question I have is where that car is parked, not the one by the
Yeah.
home, but the other. You could put that
If we
shed there.
if we built it up, yes, we could. That's why I was asking for a
Yeah.
considerable.
And
leniency
it
on
looks
time.
like you have it on stone now.
Yes, we have it a stone
Yeah,
mound.
yeah, okay.
We didn't have to put it there. We could have put it on a cement slab, but at the time, Bonnie couldn't afford to have the concrete poured in. But our next door neighbor has a what do you call them, bucket thingies? Bobcat. That's what it is. It's got a bobcat. Anyway, it pulls stone and it pushes it on there for it. So because it was a present to him, she wanted to get everything done.
So, okay, but it could be moved there and it would
It
be
could be moved there.
further back. Okay, thank you.
I couldn't go much further back than that car, though. It'd have to be really close to the trees. It would probably be, it couldn't go closer to the house. right there is probably about, because the field drains come right at the end of that, where that light pole is, right there. No, it goes up a little higher. The field drains, they stick up out of the ground, and it about even with the car, only about maybe 8 feet that way.
The shed's 20 feet long, and so if you take off the addition that's not been permitted yet as well,
Right.
You would only have 20-foot long.
Right. So we would be able to put it there, but we wouldn't be able to put it closer this way because of the drain ditch over here spills over and makes it into a bucket.
Ultimately, you wouldn't be able to put it behind or alongside of the house. I mean, the
I really wish we
application
could.
is because it has to be at least 100 feet from the front property line to legalize it and pull it back so that the house is in the front and the shed is towards the back. That's the main issue.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask a question about the other shed.
Yes.
What's with that? What do you do with that? Is it just,
Nothing. The whole back side of it is it's leaned inward. The reason why Bonnie gave him this one is because that one was unusable. The ride mower used to be in there, but we had to pull it with a truck to get it out of there because the ground was so soggy, it couldn't hold the weight.
okay.
So that's why that was a gift, because that one was not usable.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yes, how long has that shed been there?
Bonnie died April 9th. She put it there 3 months before that. So I'd say January-ish, mid-January of 2019.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to give testimony in favor of the application? No? Is there anyone online who would like to give testimony in favor of this application? Please push *1 so we can unmute you. Okay, we have no callers. So now, do we have anyone who is in opposition to this application in the room? None? Is there anyone online who is in opposition to this application? Please push *1 to unmute. And there's no one. So, seeing as there's no further testimony to be given, the hearing for this application A2101 is now closed.
Okay, so that's it for that's it for our applications. So at this point, we'll close the public hearing. Does anybody need a break, or should we just keep moving? Keep moving, okay. So at this point, I'm going to call the business meeting to order. And the first order of business is election of officers. You two can leave at this point because we won't be asking you anything more. You're welcome. Yeah, later tonight after the meeting.
Yes, you could stay for the business meeting when they'll rule on it, or if you wanted to call tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you can call and ask for me, and I'll let you know how they decided.
Thank you.
You also can listen online when you get home. I don't know, we might be done by then, but
Was that is it in the Kent County Board of, is that in the packet you sent?
yeah, the call-in number and all that. As I said, I don't know if it'll still, but you're welcome to.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, guys.
Have a good night. Okay, so the first order of business is election of officers. I think everybody, well, maybe not, because everybody's here has done this, but essentially we begin with, it's nominating the chair and the vice chair. We start with the chair, and we can either do it by voice, or we can do it as a paper ballot, and whatever suits you guys. I'm happy if you... Okay. All right. So first order of business is nomination for the chair.
I nominate Joan Denny for chair.
Second.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Crossan.
Eric, thank you.
do we have any other nominations for the chair? Should we vote with a show of hands? Tag, I'm it. Thank you, I think. Okay, so the next. Not happening, right? Okay, well. So the next nomination would be for our vice chair, so we need a nomination.
Crossan. I'll nominate Temple Carter as our vice chair.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, there are none. Anybody who wishes to have Mr. Carter, raise your hand. It's unanimous. It's your lucky night. Okay, so that aside, so now we'll move on to the minutes. We are in need of approving the business minutes from the December 17th, 2020 meeting. I need a motion.
Morgan Hudson, I make a motion to approve the meetings from December 17th, 2020.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Hearing none.
Please mark me as not voting, so I wasn't here.
So it's unanimous with the two members who were not present abstaining. Next order of business, approval of the notices of decision from the December 17th meeting. Those are application A2040, A2042, A2043, A2045, and A2046. So we need a motion. It's usually Mr. Carter, but he wasn't here. So it's going to need to be somebody else.
Crossan. I'll make a motion to accept the decisions from the December 17th? 17th, 2020 meeting.
Hudson, I'll make a second on that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the notice of decisions. And I'll just say that again for the record, A2040, A2042, A2043, A2045, and A2046. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? One absent. Two. Oh, two. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Two absent. Okay, old business. We have,
I'm sorry, we still have to do the other notice of decision.
Is that the one that was tabled?
That was the appeal.
I thought it was
The
20. I
go-
thought it was 44.
go for play.
Correct, the go for play.
I don't
And
have-
you might remember I initialed for you, but in this case, we're going to have you formally vote and then, I believe, sign as well. If you signed, your motion was correctly put on the sheet. There were two people that, Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Kusick.
Okay, so what we're being asked to do is is simply move the approval of the decision, and the decision, as you know, indicates that some members were in favor of the prevailing motion and some members were opposed to the prevailing motion. So I don't see why we couldn't have, at least in theory, a unanimous vote to approve the decision if it accurately reflects the events of that evening.
Okay, so I thought that I had it in my packet, but we passed it around for signatures, and so I no longer have it before me.
That is correct. So as Mr. Townsend said, you're just voting to approve. It's, yeah, A-20-38.
A20-38, it's a notice of decision on appeal, which was labeled application A2038, and we'd like a motion and a second to approve that decision and a separate vote.
And because we were not here, you all recall, we received individual emails because they needed to file it, and so we all received emails asking for us to yay or nay.
We're going to disregard those events and ask you just to treat it like a normal decision today.
Okay, so then so at this point then, we need a motion on the notice of decision for the appeal A2038, which would have been go for play.
Right.
Okay? So
I'll make a motion to approve the notice of decision of appeal for application A20-38.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. As a show of hands, good enough, or should we? I mean, that's typically what we do. But we don't, this is an appeal. So is it better if we call the roll?
Yeah, let's call the roll.
You prefer I call the roll?
Takes a minute.
Okay. Mr. Cusick,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Saunders,
No.
We're just approving the notice of decision.
Okay. Okay. So just to make it clear, the decision indicates that some members were in favor and some members were opposed to the prevailing motion. Your vote is to approve the decision as written, and the question to you is the decision as written and is your vote as reflected in that decision accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a yes vote on the notice of decision. Right.
Great, okay, Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Crossan,
Yes.
Ms. Hudson,
Yes.
and Ms. Stenny.
Yes.
Vote shows 7 yeas, 0 nays.
So having received unanimous positive votes, the notice of decision for the appeal, A2038 is hereby approved. Okay, next is the application for Zavora, Wayview, and Fatima Perry, which was tabled from last month's meeting. So first thing is we would need to a motion to bring it forward.
And I would just add, Madam Chairwoman, that Mr. Saunders and Mr. Carter were both sent a transcript or the hearing so they could view it and see all the testimony so they could participate tonight.
Thank
I
you.
did view that.
Okay, so at this point, we tabled it.
So we need a motion to lift it
So we
from
need
the table.
we need a motion to lift
Make a
it.
motion to lift application A20-44 from the table.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, unanimously voted to lift it from the table. At this point, we need to, vote, have a motion to approve, have discussion, I guess, or a motion to approve or whatever, or whatever, have a motion. And now that we have a full group before us.
I vote,
Go ahead.
I vote to, I guess, are we going to say our vote? Or
You're going to make we need a motion.
Correct, a motion.
I'd like to make a motion on A-20-14 to deny based on the staff recommendations.
44.
No, yes, it's A20-44. So we do have a motion.
I think you might have said 14.
It's 44.
I'm sorry, I meant 44.
Correct, A20-44.
So we have a motion and we need a second. The motion is to deny.
I second the motion. Crossen.
Second. Anybody have anything they want to say? Call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Carter,
I'm going to vote yes on the motion to deny on A20-44 based on the staff recommendation and the testimony that was given.
thank you. Mr. Cusick,
I vote no to the motion. I feel that it does fit within the surrounding area. We granted approvals in this neighborhood within the same criteria. And I believe the economic hardship at this point is there, and I think they met with the HOA community and were willing to fix what they needed to do.
okay, thank you. Mr. Jenkins,
I vote yes in support of the motion to deny application A20-44 based upon the recommendations of the staff and the testimony of the individuals previous.
thank you. Ms. Hudson,
For A-20-44, I vote no to the motion to deny based off testimony that we heard from the owners, how the HOA was willing to work with the owners, the nature of the zone where the property lies doesn't change and it's not affected, and based off of prior approved variances for sunrooms.
great, thank you. Mr. Crossen,
I based my decision to deny the original variance request at the last meeting, in December's meeting, on a number of factors brought to light in staff responses. I do believe that the structure, as it now stands on the 0.2 acre lot, which is very small, and it's just 10.5 feet from the rear property line, is out of character with the other structures, even though there are other sunrooms on other houses next to and behind. They all meet the setbacks. Also, it certainly can impact neighbors' views and possibly property values because of how it sits on that property. As to exceptional practical difficulty, the reason listed for the variance request is for an ill family member to be able to sit and get fresh air. It's pretty vague. It's easy to, and it's easy to access outside. This would have been achieved several ways, could have been achieved several ways, without building a permanent enclosed structure. A screen porch, retractable awning for shade, another gazebo properly anchored that wouldn't blow away in a windstorm. Any one of these could have been used, could be used to provide what they're asking for. So I still vote no on this motion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Crossen, so the motion is deny, to
Yes.
deny, and you vote yes
Yes to deny.
for that motion to deny?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders,
After watching the YouTube video, reading the written responses and stuff, I vote yes to deny. I believe it's out of character. When I drove by and looked at it, it stands way out compared to all the other from both sides of the road.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Denny?
I actually vote no on the motion to deny because I feel as though, well, this whole, not just this one building, but that whole area to me seems very much an impractical difficulty. And it actually, when you go there and view, it actually forms almost like you can see where it would, form the narrowness of the space between, it's almost like a wind tunnel going there. And based on the testimony from from when they were here, I mean, they tried gazebos and other things that all blew away and anchored, by the way, in my years of managing a town, I can tell you that would not be the first. If it had been anchored, it wouldn't be the first anchored gazebo to take flight. So therefore, I'm going to vote no on the motion to deny.
Thank you, Ms. Denny. So on a motion to deny A20-44, we have 4 yeas and 3 nays.
Okay, so having received the appropriate amount of positive votes to deny, the motion carries and the application is thereby denied. Okay, so new business is our application from this evening, which is Ryan K. Riggs. That is application A 2101. And so at this point, we're looking for a conversation or a motion.
It looks like according to the notes we got from the staff, that there was an illegal trailer placed on that same property, which the board at some point, 1995 or whenever it was there, approved to subdivide and reduce the amount of property and frontage so that it could be subdivided. So it seems to me that the people that are living there or owned it at the time, which is the same parties now, would have known about permits by then after that happened. So it's just to put that there seems a little strange after they went through all that to be able to subdivide the property in the beginning. So I think that obviously they're not going to make a 100-foot setback, but there is a viable place to move it. They have a friend that has a Bobcat that could pull that thing back there. So I'm not sure how many feet that is back off the road. It's certainly more than it is now. I would like to see somehow they move it back to where it could be moved. Yeah, pretty much where you've put that.
Mr. Carlson, we could probably estimate based on this photograph, maybe using a measuring tool or something to figure out what that distance might be. But tonight, I don't know that we can offer a sound hard number of, X many feet if you're suggesting maybe a modified variance.
And if we do approve some type of variance for that, they still have to get permit, correct?
Correct. They would need an after-the-fact permit to have the shed inspected, and so that would not approve the shed. It would just approve its location, any variance granted.
So, just for clarification, so at the moment, the shed is 17 feet from the front property line.
That is correct.
And we are going to move it back to where the trailer is, which,
Other side of the trees.
because it doesn't, yeah, because it's, yep. So we're going to move it back 10 feet?
10 feet, yeah. I mean, then you got to think about, is it really worth the financial hardship to move it 10 feet? Is it going?
My sentiments exactly, you know, it's like,
That's
what are
exactly
you,
what I was thinking.
what are you gaining? I mean, what do you gain? But, okay, so onward with motions and seconds.
While you're thinking about that, if I could, I would say that we probably don't need to be in the business of telling them exactly where to put it. So if their motion is granted, it can stay where it is. If the motion instead is that you want it moved, I think the proper way to do it is to give them a certain amount of relief from the 100-foot setback restriction, the amount of relief that you think they would need to move the shed beyond that modified limit. So if it's 83 feet into the setback and you wanted it moved 15 feet, then you would indicate that you want it, 30, you would give them relief from the restriction and allow them to place a shed within 32 feet, is that what it would be? Something like that?
Yeah.
32 or 35 feet.
Well, it appears to me at the moment it's at 17 feet, so if you look at where the motorcycle is and you move it back to where the motorcycle is, you've gained 12 feet, so it would be 25.
What's the size of the shed?
10 by 20 without the addition.
And just for clarification, to the best of our this owner just inherited this. So the comments about, well, you know, they had an application before and we don't, I mean, I don't know in 95 when that happened, who was doing what or who owned what or who was the applicant. But I just want to throw that out. It was not the current owner who's asking for relief.
My question was, I'm not sure for the cost of moving that shed that gaining 10 or 15 feet is really going to make any difference.
I would concur. So at this point, we are looking for a motion.
I make a motion for A-21-01 that we make a motion to approve where his shed is based off of financial burden of having to move a shed to meet the requirements, how the property is unique with the flooding situation, and also unique being that he inherited the problem and was willing to work with the board based off the evidence that was she the property owner or the woman?
He inherited the property, so Mr.
The woman who gave us the pictures.
Oh,
She was a friend, I believe. I don't,
I think
he is
Mr.
listed as the owner.
I think Mr. Briggs is the property owner, yeah.
Okay, so based off the evidence the friend provided, we could see that the characteristics of the surrounding properties do not change, with the shed being that there was other properties with sheds in the same manner.
Second.
You have a motion and second when you're ready, if you'll call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kusick.
I vote yes to approve the motion for application A21-01 to, per the testimony given tonight for the property, the drainage issues. I feel like this area where the shed is located right now is the really only viable location. I think there is an economic hardship to have them move the shed back 10 feet, which will not change the appearance of the neighborhood or the character.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders.
Yes, I vote yes to approve A-21-01. Based upon the testimony, same thing. I think in reality, moving it 5 to 10 feet is still not going to do anything as far as except an economic hardship. And it is definitely a swamp over there, a lot of water.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson.
I vote to approve A2101 based on the exceptional practical difficulty consisting of financial and the fact that drainage areas surrounding the property make moving the shed 15 feet not practical.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
I vote yes in support of application A21-01, just based on the fact that it really seems like there's an exceptional practical difficulty on the land and the location.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
I'll vote yes on the motion to approve. Based on the testimony tonight, the physical constraints and the not practical to move that shed to gain another 10 feet, so I vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Hudson.
I vote yes for A21-01 per my motion.
Thank you. And Ms. Stenny.
I'm going to vote yes. This whole property, to me, in and of itself is just an extraordinary practical difficulty, just based on the fact that, it's really just a drain. It's totally wetlands and drainage fields. So, and again, I could see where if you wanted to move it back, you would still it would still be a variance because you wouldn't be accomplishing the code. And when you look actually, when I looked at this, I feel a little different as I'm looking at this picture. When I looked at this at home, I kept thinking, if we were to make him move it back, then look at these huge trees that are behind it that have to come down. So I just thought, so I do think there's an exceptional practical difficulty for this particular property. So yes.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Stenny. For application A2101 for Ryan Briggs, on a motion to approve, we have 7 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Having received unanimous positive votes, application A2101 is hereby approved. Yes, that probably shouldn't be a house. No other business. Typically, we would have maybe made a decision about a dinner for the board. We often go to dinner. But frankly, unless, it's up to all of you, but I just think with all this COVID and having just gone through this myself with COVID, I really don't have any desire. This is the first I've been out of my house since the 16th of December.
I don't think we're allowed to because I think we were only 4 adults per table.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So we're going to forgo this if everybody's in agreement. I just think it's the wise thing to do.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that? Oh, thanks, Mr. Saunders.
conference recording has stopped.